The Comanche warrior saw the mail-order bride sleeping against her trunk at the station, abandoned like discarded freight. Dutch Morgan had ridden to Widow's Creek trading post for ammunition, not to rescue white women. But something in her stillness reminded him of his sister, the way forgotten things curl in on themselves. Dawn light carved harsh shadows across the woman's face. Her dress was wrinkled from travel, her brown hair escaping its pins. The stagecoach tracks led east without her. Dutch dismounted slowly, his boots silent on the packed earth. She stirred as his shadow fell across her. Eyes opened, blue as winter sky. Fear flickered there, then something else. Recognition, perhaps. Not of him, but of abandonment. "Come with me," he said in careful English. "This place not safe for woman alone." The trading post door banged open. Sadie Martinez emerged with a rifle, gray hair wild from sleep. Her eyes took in the scene like a hawk measuring prey. "Step away from her, Indian." Dutch raised his hands, palms open. The woman struggled to her feet, smoothing her skirts. She was larger than most women, soft where frontier life carved others sharp. Her hands shook as she clutched her shawl. "He hasn't hurt me," she said. Her voice carried Eastern education, careful vowels that marked her as foreign to this place. Sadie kept the rifle trained on Dutch. "Name's Sadie Martinez. I run this post." "You got business here?" "Dutch Morgan. Came for supplies." "Well, Dutch Morgan, this lady's got troubles enough without Comanche adding to them." The woman looked between them. "What troubles?" Sadie's weathered face softened slightly. "Your intended husband took one look at you sleeping there and told the driver to leave without you. Left money for your passage back east, though. Said you weren't what was promised." Color drained from the woman's face. She sat heavily on her trunk, hands folded in her lap. Dutch had seen that look before, when his sister was cast out for marrying a half-white child, when his own people turned away after he questioned their war chief's methods. "I'm Ellie Williams," she said quietly, "from Philadelphia." The morning wind stirred dust devils around them. Dutch studied Ellie's face, seeing past the fear to something harder underneath. Survivors recognized each other. "Winter comes early this year," he said. "Trading post gets raided." "Woman alone won't last," Sadie snorted. "And going with you would be safer?" Dutch met her stare. "I give my word." "Safe passage to next town, your word." Sadie's laugh was bitter. "Heard that before." Ellie stood, brushing dust from her dress. "What's in the next town?" "Stage station, rail people," Dutch said. "People who might actually want a seamstress," Ellie said, more to herself than them. Sadie lowered the rifle an inch. "You know sewing better than I know anything else." Ellie's voice carried a thread of steel. "I lied about cooking. Lied about keeping house, but I can make clothes that last." Dutch watched her straighten her shoulders. The soft woman was finding her. "Spine, roads are dangerous," Sadie said. "Especially for his kind, yours too now." "More dangerous than staying here alone?" The question hung in the air like gunsmoke. Dutch knew the answer. So did Sadie. Winter would bring desperate men, hungry animals, and cold that killed without mercy. Ellie walked to her trunk, opened it with steady hands. Inside, Dutch glimpsed fabric, thread, and a small leather pouch. She counted coins with the careful attention of someone who had never had enough. "I spent everything getting here," she said. "Sold my mother's jewelry for the bride price. There's nothing left for passage home." "Then you'll freeze," Sadie said bluntly. "Or I'll learn not to." Dutch felt something shift in his chest. Recognition, deeper than he'd first realized. This woman wouldn't break easily. "I'll witness the arrangement," Sadie said finally. "But I want your word too, Philadelphia, that you're choosing this." Ellie looked at Dutch, then at the empty horizon where the stagecoach had disappeared. Her abandoned trunk. The trading post. That offered shelter, but no future. "I'll trust you," she said to Dutch, "but only if Sadie writes it down. What we agreed. In case ... double quotes. In case he sells you to his tribe," Sadie finished. "In case I need proof I chose this." Ellie's voice was steady now. "That someone witnessed me making my own decision." Dutch nodded slowly. He understood the need for witness. For someone to say yes, she walked away willingly. Yes, she was more than her abandonment. Savvy went inside, returning with paper and ink. She wrote quickly, then read aloud. "Dutch Morgan agrees to guide Ellie Williams to the next town safely. She goes of her own free will. Witnessed by Sadie Martinez, proprietor." They signed in order. Dutch's name was careful, learned script. Ellie's was flowing, practiced. Sadie's was sharp as her rifle. "There," Sadie said. "Now you're." Both committed. Dutch helped Ellie tie her trunk to his spare horse. Their hands brushed as they worked the knots. Hers were soft but strong, marked by needle pricks and thread burns. "Ready?" he asked. Ellie looked back at the trading post. Then at the road ahead. "I have to be." They rode out as the sun climbed higher. Three unlikely allies bound by necessity and witness choice. Behind them, Widow's Creek trading post grew small against the endless sky. The first day's ride stretched between them like unspoken apologies. Dutch kept his horse a respectful distance ahead, checking the horizon with the careful attention of someone who had learned to read trouble in the bend of grass. Ellie swayed with unfamiliar rhythm, her hands raw from gripping the reins. When the sun reached its peak, Dutch dismounted near a cluster of cottonwoods. He helped Ellie down without meeting her eyes, his touch brief and careful. She stumbled slightly, legs unsteady from hours in the saddle. "Water," he said, pointing to a thin stream threading through the rocks. Ellie knelt by the water's edge, cupping her hands to drink. Dutch watched her movements, noting how she tested the water's taste, how she looked upstream for signs of contamination. "City-bred but not foolish. You learn quick," he said. She glanced up, water dripping from her chin. "I have to." They shared jerky and hardtack in silence. Dutch showed her how to read the sky for weather, how to spot the subtle signs that marked safe camping spots. She absorbed the lessons with the focused attention of someone who understood that knowledge meant survival. "Rain comes tonight," he said, pointing to clouds building in the west. Ellie studied the sky, trying to see what he saw. "How do you know? Wind changes, birds fly different." That evening, Dutch built a small fire while Ellie arranged their bedrolls. The flames caught slowly, sending sparks into the darkening sky. She pulled a needle and thread from her saddlebag, began mending a tear in his shirt sleeve. "Don't need to," he said. Payment for the lessons. Her stitches were small and even, each one placed with the precision of someone who had learned to make things last. Dutch watched her work, noting the way her face relaxed into concentration. This was her skill, her worth measured in thread and careful fingers. The rain came as promised, drumming against the canvas shelter Dutch had rigged between the trees. They sat close to the fire, close enough to share warmth, but not touch. Ellie's needle flashed in the firelight as she worked. "You married?" she asked quietly. "Was she die?" Dutch stared into the flames. "Soldiers killed her. And my sister." Ellie's hands stilled. "I'm sorry. Long time ago." But not long enough to stop the tightness in his chest when he spoke of it. Ellie seemed to understand. She went back to her sewing, leaving him space for his grief. The second day brought easier conversation. Dutch pointed out plants that could heal, tracks that told stories of the animals that made them. Ellie shared fragments of her old life, the factory work that bent her back, the boarding house where she'd saved every penny, the letter from Micah, Belle that had seemed like salvation. "Thought I'd be someone's wife," she said. "Have a kitchen, maybe children. Still might, Not the same kind of children. Not the same kind of kitchen. Dutch heard the acceptance in her voice. Not bitterness, but the quiet understanding that some doors, once closed, stayed closed. On the third day, they encountered Arthur Callahan. He emerged from a stand of mesquite trees, his paint horse moving with the fluid grace of someone born. To the saddle. Arthur's face was painted for war, his expression hard as winter ground. Dutch raised his hand in greeting. Arthur did not respond. "Friend of yours?" Ellie asked quietly. "Used to be." Arthur rode closer, his eyes fixed on Dutch. When he spoke, it was in rapid Comanche, his voice carrying the weight of judgment. Dutch answered in the same language, his tone careful, respectful. Ellie watched the exchange, noting the tension in Dutch's shoulders, the way Arthur's hand rested near his knife. She understood none of the words but read the threat clearly. "What does he want?" she asked. Dutch's jaw tightened. "For me to come home, face the council. And if you don't?" Arthur spoke again, his voice rising. Dutch replied with quiet firmness, then switched to English. "Arthur, this is Ellie Williams. She needs safe passage to the next town." Arthur's eyes moved to Ellie, taking in her travel-worn dress, her soft hands, the way she sat her horse with. Improving, but still obvious inexperience. When he spoke, his English was fluid, unaccented. "White woman travels with exiled Comanche. Dangerous for both," Ellie started. Dutch had been speaking broken English for 3 days, careful and halting. But Arthur's words flowed with the ease of native fluency. "You speak English well," she said. Carefully, Arthur's smile was sharp, mission school. "Same as Dutch." The words hit Ellie like cold water. She looked at Dutch, seeing him differently now. The careful grammar she'd attributed to unfamiliarity. The way he'd understood her more. Complex sentences while responding simply. "Dutch," she said. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "Had schooling. Long time ago." "How long?" 10 years at the mission. Left when I was 18. Arthur watched their exchange with interest. "Dutch speaks English better than many whites. Reads too. Writes pretty words." Heat flushed Ellie's face. Not anger, but embarrassment. She'd been speaking to him as if he were a child, explaining simple concepts with exaggerated patience. "Why didn't you tell me?" Dutch finally looked at her. "Safer if people think I'm just another savage. I'm not people, aren't you?" The question hung between them. Arthur gathered his reins, preparing to leave. "Council meets at next full moon," he said to Dutch. "Come home, face judgment with honor, and if I don't, then you're no longer Comanche, and no longer under our protection." Arthur rode away, leaving dust and silence in his wake. Dutch stared after him, his face unreadable. "Protection from what?" Ellie asked. "From men who hunt Indians for bounty. From soldiers who shoot first. From settlers who think the only good Comanche is a dead one." Ellie absorbed this information. "Slowly, and from your own people?" "If I'm exiled, I'm nobody. Fair game for anyone." They rode in silence for the rest of the day. That evening, Dutch built the fire with mechanical precision, while Ellie prepared their simple meal. The easy companionship of the past days had fractured, leaving jagged edges neither knew how to smooth. "I would have understood," Ellie said finally. "Would you?" She considered the question honestly. "I don't know. Maybe I would have been afraid. Now you know why I didn't tell you. Now I know you don't trust me." Dutch poked at the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiraling upward. "Trust is earned. Then let me earn it. How?" Ellie pulled out her sewing, began working on a new project. Not mending this time, but creating. Her hands moved with practice. Efficiency, shaping cloth into something useful. By proving I see you as a person, not a savage. By not running when things get complicated. Things are about to get more complicated. Then it's a good thing I'm learning to survive. Dutch watched her work, noting the determination in her bent head, the steady rhythm of her needle. Perhaps trust could be earned after all. Perhaps it already was being earned, one careful stitch at a time. The fire crackled between them, and, for the first time since Arthur's visit, the silence felt comfortable again. Not the easy companionship of before, but something deeper. The quiet understanding of two people who had chosen to see each other clearly, flaws and all. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests of the fragile alliance they were building. But tonight, they had firelight and honest conversation. They had the beginning of real trust, earned through shared hardship and patient revelation. It was enough. For now it was enough. The settlement of Cedar Ridge rose from the prairie like a collection of broken teeth. Dutch and Ellie approached at midday, dust swirling around their horses' hooves. The main street stretched between weathered buildings, their paint peeling under the relentless sun. Dutch pulled his hat low, shoulders tense. Stage station there. Hotel next to it. Ellie studied the handful of people moving between the buildings. Women in faded dresses, men in worn work clothes, all of them white. All of them staring as the unlikely pair rode closer. "They don't look welcoming," she said. "Never do." They dismounted at the hotel's hitching post. Dutch tied the horses with quick, efficient movements while Ellie smoothed her travel-stained dress. The door opened before they could knock. The hotel keeper was a thin man with nervous eyes and calloused hands. He looked from Dutch to Ellie, his expression shifting from confusion to understanding to something harder. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "you all right?" "Fine, thank you." "I'd like passage on the next stage east." "Course, ma'am, course." His eyes never left Dutch. "This Indian bothering you? He's my guide." He's been perfectly respectful. The man's face tightened. "Guide, you say?" A crowd was gathering. Men emerged from the saloon, women peered from shop windows. Their faces carried the weight of old fears, old hatreds. Dutch stood perfectly still, hands visible and empty. "Problem here, Henry?" A large man in a deputy's badge pushed through the crowd. His hand rested on his gun belt. "No problem," Ellie said quickly. "Just arranging passage." The deputy studied her face, looking for signs of distress or coercion. "You sure about that?" "Ma'am, you look a mite peaked. I'm tired from traveling." "Nothing more." "Traveling?" "With a Comanche." The deputy's voice carried accusation. "That's unusual. Mr. Morgan has been protecting me." "Morgan?" The deputy's eyes sharpened. "You wouldn't happen to be the mail-order bride we heard about? The one taken by Comanche?" Ellie's stomach dropped. "Taken?" "Micah Bell was through here 2 days ago. Said his intended bride got snatched from the trading post. Offered reward money for her safe return." The crowd pressed closer. Dutch's jaw tightened, but he remained motionless. Ellie felt the weight of their stares, the way their sympathy for her was building into anger toward him. "Mr. Bell abandoned me," she said clearly. "This man offered to help." "That's not how Bell tells it." The deputy's hand moved closer to his gun. "Says you were sleeping when the Indians attacked. Says this one here probably killed good folks getting to you. That's not true." "Well, ma'am, you might be confused. Sometimes happens when folks go through trauma." The deputy stepped toward Dutch. "You're coming with me, Indian." "No." The word came out sharper than Ellie intended. "I won't let you arrest an innocent man." "Ma'am, you're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking perfectly clearly." Ellie moved. "Between the deputy and Dutch, this man saved my life. I won't see him harmed for kindness." The deputy's face hardened. "Step aside, ma'am." "Don't make this difficult." "Run," Ellie said quietly to Dutch. "Not without you. They won't hurt me. I'm white. They'll use you to track me." The deputy reached for his gun. Dutch grabbed Ellie's hand, pulling her toward the horses. The crowd surged forward, shouting. Dutch boosted Ellie onto her horse. then swung onto his own. They rode hard through the main street, dust and angry voices following them. The deputy fired a shot into the air, more warning than threat. Dutch led them out of town and into the broken country beyond. They rode until the horses began to falter, then found shelter in a narrow canyon where red rocks rose on either side. Dutch dismounted, checking their back trail while Ellie slumped in her saddle. "This is my fault," she said. "No, it's Micah Bell's fault. I should have claimed to be rescued, should have let you go." Dutch loosened the saddle cinches, giving the horses relief. "Then you would have been his prisoner, legal prisoner. Better than this, is it?" Ellie looked around the canyon at the harsh beauty of stone and sky, at Dutch moving with quiet efficiency, checking their supplies. A week ago, she would have been terrified. Now she felt something else, not safety but purpose. What do? We do now? Hide, wait, think. Dutch built a small fire in the shelter of an overhang. They ate in silence, both lost in thought. The sun set, painting the canyon walls red as blood. "Tell me about Micah Bell," Dutch said finally. Ellie stared into the flames, wrote nice letters. Said he owned land, had a house ready. Said he wanted a wife who could sew, keep house, make a home. But he left money to send me back. Like returning defective merchandise. Dutch fed twigs to the fire. More than that, he's spreading lies, making you into a victim. I am a victim, not his victim. That's different. Ellie considered this. You think he planned it? Don't know. But he's using it. They sat in contemplative silence. The fire crackled, sending sparks toward the stars. Dutch stood abruptly, walking to the canyon mouth to check for pursuit. When he returned, his expression was grim. Found something. He pulled a folded paper from his shirt. Dropped from Bell's saddlebag when he was talking to the deputy. Ellie took the paper, holding it close to the firelight. The writing was cramped, official. Her eyes widened as she read. It's a land deed. For the area around Widow's Creek Trading Post. Look at the date. Last month. But there are people living there. Sadi's Trading Post. The Indian camps nearby. Dutch nodded grimly. And now look at the signature. At the bottom of the deed, in flowing script, Colonel James Harrison, Territorial Land Office. Military, Ellie breathed. Gets worse. Dutch pulled out another paper. Found this too. This document was different. A military report detailing recent Indian attacks, recommending the removal of all Comanche from the Widow's Creek area. The signature was the same, Colonel Harrison. They're taking the land, Ellie said. Making it look like Indian attacks justify it. Bell's part of it. Probably gets a cut of the sales. And I was supposed to be what? A witness to his good character? Dutch poked at the fire. Or a casualty. Mail order bride killed in Indian attack. Makes good story for the newspapers. The implications sank in slowly. Ellie had been marked for death from the moment she stepped off that stage. Her abandonment hadn't been personal rejection. It had been calculated disposal. He never meant to marry me. No, never meant for me to live. No, Ellie folded the papers. Carefully, her hand steady despite the tremor in her voice. What about your people, your war chief? Dutch's face went stone still. What about him? Is he part of this? The silence stretched between them. Dutch stared into the fire, wrestling with truths he'd hoped never to voice. He's been getting whiskey, new rifles. Things we can't afford. In exchange for what? For attacking the right places. At the right times. For making it look like you're the aggressors. Yes, the word fell between them like a stone into still water. Dutch's exile made sense now. He'd questioned not just tactics, but betrayal. His own war chief was selling out his people for temporary advantage. That's why Arthur wants you back, Ellie said. To silence you. Or to make me complicit. And if you refuse, Dutch met her eyes across the fire. Then I'm a dead man, and so are you. The canyon walls seemed to press closer, the darkness beyond the firelight deeper. They were trapped between two forces, each willing to sacrifice them for larger goals. So what do? Dutch stood, brushing dust from his pants. We go back. Back where? To Widow's Creek, to Sadie. That's suicide. Maybe, or maybe it's the only way to stop this. Ellie studied his face in the firelight, saw determination there, and something else. The quiet resolve of a man who had found his purpose. You have a plan. Beginning of one. Care to share? Dutch began banking the fire, preparing for sleep. We're going to tell the truth. All of it. To who? To everyone who'll listen. Starting with Sadie Martinez. Ellie wrapped her blanket around her shoulders, settling against the canyon wall. Think she believe us? Think she's been waiting for someone to ask the right questions. The fire died to embers, casting dancing shadows on the rock walls. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new impossible choices. But tonight, they had each other and the beginning of a plan. It might not be enough, but it was more than either of them had possessed alone. They reached Widow's Creek trading post at dawn, the building emerging from morning mist like a ghost of better times. Sadie Martinez stood on the porch, rifle in hand as if she'd been expecting them. Figured you'd be back, she said. Question is why? Dutch dismounted first, helping Ellie down with careful hands. Both moved with the wariness of people who had learned to read danger in shadows. Need to talk, Dutch said. About what? Ellie pulled the papers from her saddlebag. About Micah Bell, about land deeds, about why people want us dead. Sadie's eyes sharpened. She stepped aside, gesturing them into the trading post. Inside, the familiar smell of coffee and leather goods felt like sanctuary. Show me, Sadie said. They spread the documents on the counter. Sadie read in silence, her weathered face growing harder with each line. When she finished, she walked to a locked cabinet, withdrew a leather portfolio. Been collecting these for months, she said, opening it. Wondered when someone would ask the right questions. The portfolio contained maps, correspondence, military reports, all bearing the same signature, Colonel James Harrison. All documenting the systematic displacement of both settlers and Comanche from valuable land. Your Pinkerton, Ellie said, was retired when I discovered how deep this corruption runs. Sadie's finger traced the map boundaries. They're not just stealing land. They're engineering a war to justify it. Dutch studied the papers with growing understanding. My war chief. He's getting paid to attack specific places. And when he does, Harrison's men move in as peacekeepers. Coincidentally, they always find the land too dangerous for settlement. Gets sold cheap to railroad companies. With Bell as the middleman, Ellie added. Smart girl. Bell handles the legal paperwork, finds buyers. Gets a percentage of every sale. The sound of approaching horses cut through their conversation. Sadie moved to the window, peering through the curtains. 3 riders, military uniforms. Harrison's men? Dutch asked. Likely, you two stay quiet. Let me handle this. The soldiers dismounted outside, their spurs ringing against the porch boards. The leader knocked with the authority of someone accustomed to compliance. Mrs. Martinez? Colonel. Harrison's compliments. We're looking for a missing woman. Sadie opened the door partially, blocking their view inside. What woman? Mail-order bride named Ellie Williams. Taken by hostile Indians. We have reason to believe she might have passed through here. Alone? With a Comanche brave. Dangerous. Man, there's reward money for information. Sadie's grip tightened on her rifle. Haven't seen any Indians lately. Been quiet around here. Mind if we search the premises? I do mind. This is private property. The soldier's tone hardened. Ma'am, we're trying to save a woman's life. And I'm trying to run a business. You want to search my property, bring a warrant. Through the window, Dutch spotted movement in the distance. Riders approaching from the north. He recognized Arthur Callahan's distinctive paint horse. Sadie, he said quietly. Company coming. She glanced back, saw the approaching Comanche. Her face remained impassive, but her knuckles whitened on the rifle stock. Gentlemen, she said to the soldiers, you might want to move along. Going to get crowded here soon. The lead soldier followed her gaze, saw the Indian riders. His hand moved to his sidearm. That's them, he said. The hostiles. Arthur Callahan rode into the yard, flanked by 2 other warriors. He raised his hand in greeting, his expression calm but alert. Mrs. Martinez, he said in perfect English. Good morning. The soldiers stiffened. One reached for his rifle. Easy, Arthur said. We come in peace. Looking for our friend Dutch Morgan. Friend? The soldier's voice carried disbelief. Yes, friend. Dutch stepped onto the porch, hands visible and empty. The soldiers swung their weapons toward him. There's the savage, one muttered. I'm here, Dutch said to Arthur. What do you want? Arthur dismounted slowly, his movements deliberately non-threatening. Council met early, voted to lift your exile. Why? Because we learned the truth about War Chief Standing Bear, about his deals with the white soldiers. The lead soldier's face went pale. You're under arrest, he said to Dutch. For kidnapping and assault. He didn't kidnap anyone, Ellie said, stepping into view. I chose to travel with him. All eyes turned to her. The soldiers saw a white woman defending an Indian. Arthur saw Dutch's traveling companion. Sadie saw the moment when everything would change. Miss Williams, the soldier said, you're safe now. Step away from the savage. His name is Dutch Morgan. He saved my life. He's a dangerous criminal. No, Micah Bell is the criminal. Ellie pulled out the land deeds, held them high. These documents prove Bell is stealing land, working with corrupt military officers to engineer attacks. Those are forgeries, the soldier said quickly. Are they? Arthur stepped closer, studying the papers. This signature. I've seen it before. Where? On the Whiskey Bottles War. Chief Standing Bear has been hiding on the ammunition boxes. On the gold coins he's been paying warriors to attack specific settlements. The pieces clicked together in everyone's minds simultaneously. The soldiers realized their mission was compromised. Arthur understood the scope of the betrayal. Sadie saw justice finally within reach. You're all under arrest, the lead soldier said desperately, raising his rifle. For what? Sadie asked. Exposing treason? For conspiracy against the United States government. Which government? Arthur asked quietly. The one that honors treaties or the one that breaks them for profit? The standoff stretched taut. 6 people with weapons, each representing different loyalties, different truths. The morning sun climbed higher, casting sharp shadows across the trading post yard. Then Dutch did something unexpected. He stepped forward, hands still empty. Enough, he said. No more shooting, no more lies. He looked at each person in turn. We all know the truth now. Question is what we do with it. The lead soldier's finger tightened on his trigger. Stand down, Indian. No, the word carried. Quiet finality. Dutch had found his ground, the place where he would not retreat. This woman needs protection. Not from me, but from the men who marked her for death. I gave my word to keep her safe. And I gave mine to bring you in. Then you'll have to shoot me. Arthur moved closer to Dutch, standing beside him. You'll have to shoot both of us. Sadie stepped off the porch, rifle ready. All 3 of us. Ellie joined them, her hands empty but her stance firm. All 4 of us. The soldiers looked at each other, recognizing the shift in dynamics. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and defending the indefensible. "This isn't over," the lead soldier said. "Yes, it is," Sada's voice carried absolute certainty. "I've got enough evidence to hang your colonel. You boys can go down with him, or you can disappear." The soldiers mounted their horses, riding away in defeated silence. The four allies watched them go, each processing what they'd accomplished. "What now?" Ellie asked. "Now we rebuild," Dutch said. "Different this time. Better." Arthur nodded. The council voted. "We want peace, real peace." "And I want justice," Sadie added. "For everyone who's been cheated." 6 months later, Ellie Williams stood in the doorway of her seamstress shop, watching the sun set over the growing town of Widows Creek. The settlement had tripled in size, drawing honest settlers, reformed soldiers, and Comanche families, willing to try coexistence. Dutch approached on horseback, his nephew riding beside him. The boy was learning English, just as Dutch was. Relearning his own language without shame. "Evening lessons?" Dutch asked. "Always room for one more student." The boy slid from his horse, ran into the shop where Sadie was teaching children to read. Dutch lingered in the doorway. "You happy here?" he asked. "I'm useful here. That's better than happy." "And tomorrow?" "Tomorrow I'll still be useful. Still be building something worth keeping." Dutch smiled, the expression transforming his weathered face. "My sister would have liked you. I would have liked her too." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the town settle into evening. Two people who had found their place not through marriage or blood, but through shared purpose and mutual respect. The abandoned mail-order bride had become a cornerstone of the community. The exiled warrior had become a bridge between worlds. Together, they had built something neither could have achieved alone. A future worth having, a peace worth keeping. And that is all to the story, for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you, it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.